For years, viewers have watched Matt Stetar do something that feels almost impossible. Pull a bulldozer out of the woods after 20 years of rust, silence, and rot, and somehow coax the engine back to life. He's dragged excavators out of mud pits, hauled dump trucks off collapsing farms, and turned junkyard-bound machines into working equipment again. Diesel Creek has become one of the biggest names in heavy equipment restoration on YouTube. And yet, despite millions of views and a devoted audience, the man running the channel has kept almost everything about his personal life locked away from the camera. No house tours, no relationship vlogs, no dramatic personal updates designed to farm engagement. Just machines, tools, and the occasional glimpse of a life that clearly exists far beyond the workshop. That silence has done the opposite of what Matt probably intended. Instead of fading into the background, it's made people more curious. Who is Eva, the woman he married? How big is the property really? What is Matt actually worth? Today we're digging into everything that's known and everything that still isn't about the life behind Diesel Creek. By the end, one thing becomes clear. The mystery surrounding Matt and Eva isn't the result of some hidden scandal. It's simply the product of two people who decided, early on, that not everything has to be content. Before there was a YouTube channel, before there was a workshop full of restored machinery, there was just a kid in western Pennsylvania who couldn't resist taking things apart. Matt has talked in interviews about growing up with an almost compulsive need to understand how mechanical objects worked, gears, motors, anything with moving parts. He wasn't satisfied just using something. He needed to know what was happening underneath the surface. There's a story he's told more than once that sums up that mindset perfectly. As a kid, he came across a broken toy drill at school that had been stuffed full of coins and left for dead. While everyone else saw garbage, Matt saw a puzzle. He asked to take it home, spent the evening pulling it apart, cleared out the coins jamming the motor, and got it running again. It's a small story, but it's basically the entire premise of Diesel Creek in miniature. Take something everyone else has given up on, figure out what's actually wrong with it, and bring it back. Part of why he had so much time to tinker traces back to his family situation. Matt has joked that he was something of a surprise. Born more than a decade after his older sisters, at a point when his parents weren't exactly expecting a third child. That gap meant he grew up more or less on his own timeline. While his sisters were already teenagers moving toward adulthood, Matt was still a kid with a garage full of curiosities and nobody his own age around to distract him. So he built his own entertainment out of broken engines and spare parts. School, on the other hand, never really clicked for him. He said plainly that sitting in a classroom for hours never suited the way his brain worked. He learned by doing, not by reading about doing. He's mentioned being frustrated that his high school didn't offer a real hands-on shop program, which left him without the kind of practical training he actually wanted. So instead of chasing a 4-year degree, he went a different route. He enrolled in the welding program at the Community College of Allegheny County. It wasn't a flashy decision, but it was a smart one. Welding gave him a direct path into construction, fabrication, and eventually heavy equipment work. Real, employable skills without the weight of major student debt. Instead of walking out of school with a diploma and no clear direction, Matt walked out with a trade that employers were actively looking for, and he put it to work almost immediately. From there, Matt spent years working across western Pennsylvania's construction and pipeline industry, operating bulldozers, excavators, backhoes, and loaders on demanding job sites. That kind of work doesn't leave much room for error. When a hose blows or a machine won't start, every hour of downtime costs money, and that pressure taught him troubleshooting skills no classroom ever could. Job sites like that don't wait around for someone to look up a manual. Problems have to get diagnosed and fixed fast, often with whatever tools and parts happen to be on hand. That environment shaped the way Matt approaches every restoration he films today. Methodical, resourceful, and never afraid to improvise when the textbook solution isn't available. It was also during these years that Matt started building the kind of hands-on resume that would later become the backbone of his on-camera credibility. Viewers who watch him diagnose a hydraulic failure or rebuild a starter motor aren't watching someone who learned it from a manual the week before filming. They're watching someone who spent years doing exactly that kind of work under real-time pressure, with real financial stakes attached to getting it right. That authenticity is part of what separates Diesel Creek from channels where the restoration knowledge feels more performative than practiced. Even while working full-time in the field, he kept a camera rolling on the side. Long before Diesel Creek meant anything to anyone, he was just uploading videos because he liked documenting what he was doing. Dirt bikes, off-road trips, random projects with friends. Nothing polished, nothing strategic. Sometime around 2011, those uploads started drifting toward machinery and equipment, and that shift quietly planted the seed for everything that came later. By early 2020, Matt was still, first and foremost, a construction and pipeline guy. YouTube existed, but it wasn't paying his bills. It was a side project layered on top of a real job. He said in interviews that he never treated the platform as a guaranteed career path. His mindset was practical. If it didn't work out, he could always go back to union construction work. Then the world changed almost overnight. When the pandemic hit in early 2020, construction schedules got disrupted, projects slowed down, and the kind of steady infrastructure work Matt relied on suddenly looked uncertain. Instead of waiting around for things to return to normal, he made a call that looked risky at the time. He decided to put his full energy into YouTube. It wasn't blind optimism. It was closer to calculated risk-taking, backed by a safety net. If it failed, he always had heavy equipment work to fall back on. That cushion is what made the leap possible. And the timing turned out to be almost eerily good. With so many people stuck at home during lockdowns, long-form YouTube content exploded in popularity, and slow, methodical restoration videos were exactly the kind of content people wanted to sink hours into. Diesel Creek wasn't built on fast fixes and 10-minute highlight reels. Matt showed the whole process. The seized engines, the stripped bolts, the failed attempts, the frustrating dead ends. And then, eventually, the moment a machine that hadn't run in years roared back to life. That honesty is what hooked people. Viewers weren't just watching equipment get fixed, they were watching a story play out in real time, one setback and one small victory at a time. Restoration after restoration started pulling in hundreds of thousands of views, and plenty crossed the million mark. Matt didn't chase trends or reinvent his format to keep up with algorithm shifts. He stuck to the same formula. Find a machine worth saving, figure out what killed it, and let the audience ride along for the whole repair. As the channel grew, so did the business behind it. What started as YouTube ad revenue on its own eventually expanded into merchandise, sponsorships, affiliate deals, direct fan support, and partnerships with equipment manufacturers. And rather than pouring that money into anything flashy, Matt has consistently funneled it back into the operation itself. Bigger workshops, more storage for equipment, better access roads, heavier lifting gear, and more land dedicated to restoration work. Machines that used to sit outside exposed to the weather started moving into proper covered buildings. New fabrication tools showed up. The whole property gradually evolved from a modest home base into something closer to a working industrial yard. That reinvestment pattern says something about how Matt approaches the business side of Diesel Creek. A lot of creators who hit a similar level of success start branching out into personal luxury, bigger houses, expensive cars, the trappings that usually come with a growing income. Matt's spending has followed a noticeably different pattern, at least based on what's visible on camera. Nearly everything that gets upgraded seems to feed back into the channel's actual output. Better tools mean faster, safer repairs. More covered storage means machines stop deteriorating between projects. Improved roads mean heavier equipment can actually get hauled in and out without tearing up the property. It's less lifestyle creep and more infrastructure creep. And it's arguably one of the reasons the channel has been able to keep scaling up the size and difficulty of its projects year after year without the quality of the work slipping. But growth came with a side effect Matt probably didn't fully anticipate. The bigger the channel got, the more people wanted to know about him personally, not just the machines. By late 2021, Diesel Creek wasn't a niche channel anymore. It was one of the most recognized names in the heavy equipment restoration space. And with that kind of visibility comes the same question every growing creator eventually faces. Who are you when the camera's off? As it turns out, Matt is married. He and his wife, Eva, got married on October 22, 2021. But unlike a lot of online personalities who turn a wedding into a multi-part content series or a sponsored spectacle, their marriage barely registered as a moment on the channel at all. There was no elaborate proposal video, no wedding special, no honeymoon vlog built for views. Most fans found out gradually, piecing it together from social media posts and passing mentions rather than any kind of formal announcement. That restraint is honestly one of the more unusual things about Diesel Creek compared to other creator-driven channels. A lot of couples who build an audience together end up making their relationship part of the product: anniversary videos, day-in-the-life content, relationship Q&As. Matt and Eva have never gone that route. Even now, Eva remains one of the biggest question marks connected to the channel. What's publicly known is pretty thin. She reportedly had a background in marketing and account management before becoming more involved with Diesel Creek. Beyond that, details are scarce. She does show up in videos occasionally, but almost always in brief moments rather than as a featured presence, and Matt rarely talks about what she actually does for the business. Longtime viewers generally assume she's involved in filming, logistics, scheduling, or general behind-the-scenes operations, but the two of them have never sat down and explained how work is actually divided between them. That silence has only made people more curious. One of the most commonly searched questions about the channel is simply some version of "what does Eva do?" The couple has also kept basic relationship details private in a way that stands out. Where did they meet? How long did they date before getting married? Do they plan on having kids? None of that has really been addressed on camera. If anything, another part of their household has stepped into the spotlight instead: their dogs. Over time, the dogs have become recurring, familiar characters in the videos, wandering through the equipment yard or showing up in the background of a restoration, in a way that almost substitutes for the family content Matt and Eva have chosen not to make. If there's one thing fans feel like they know intimately, it's the Diesel Creek property, or at least the parts of it that show up on camera. Over the years, viewers have watched it transform from a modest work area into something resembling a full industrial yard. Excavators, bulldozers, dump trucks, cranes, loaders, and tractors scattered across gravel roads, with new buildings and storage sheds popping up as the operation expands. And yet, despite all that screen time, almost nothing is known about the actual house. Matt has never done anything close to a home tour, and he's kept his personal living space almost entirely separate from the content. One of the more surprising left-field projects he's taken on was buying an old, abandoned church with plans to renovate it. A reminder that his interest in reviving forgotten things isn't limited to diesel engines. Naturally, all of this has fueled a lot of guessing about the scale of what Matt actually owns. Public information points to a sizable rural property in western Pennsylvania that has expanded steadily over the years, but the exact acreage has never been confirmed. His equipment fleet alone, dozens of bulldozers, excavators, loaders, dump trucks, and cranes, has led plenty of viewers to estimate that the machinery on site could be worth anywhere from the low hundreds of thousands into the millions, just based on replacement value. As for his personal net worth, there's no official figure anywhere, just a wide range of guesses floating around online, generally somewhere between roughly $1 million and a few million. None of it is confirmed by Matt himself, and given how private he's been about everything else, it's unlikely he'll ever put a real number out there. Even the size of his operation is a bit of a mystery. On camera, Diesel Creek still looks like a one-man show, Matt diagnosing, wrenching, operating, and narrating everything himself. But realistically, running a channel at this scale takes a lot more than mechanical skill. Someone has to source the equipment, arrange transport for machines that can weigh anywhere from 10 to over 50 tons, keep a growing fleet of tools and vehicles maintained, edit hours of footage, manage sponsorship deals, fulfill merchandise orders, and keep the property itself running. Matt has occasionally acknowledged getting help from friends, contractors, and Eva, but he's never laid out publicly how many people, if any, work for Diesel Creek in a formal capacity. Here's the part that might actually be the most interesting thing about this whole story. There isn't much of a story to tell, at least not in the scandal sense. As Diesel Creek grew from a small restoration channel into a genuine YouTube success story, some longtime fans noticed the shift and weren't entirely thrilled about it. They remembered a guy filming repairs after his regular job, and as sponsorships, bigger budgets, and merchandise lines started appearing, a handful of comments accused the channel of losing its scrappy, backyard mechanic feel. Others pushed back on that criticism, pointing out that bigger, more ambitious restorations simply require bigger budgets, and that sponsorship money is what allows Matt to take on projects most independent creators couldn't afford to touch. There's also a running joke among viewers about the economics of it all. Matt regularly buys machines that look financially indefensible. Rusted-out bulldozers left for decades, excavators with seized engines, trucks missing critical parts. On paper, a lot of these purchases shouldn't make sense once you factor in parts, transport, and labor. But that's really the point. On YouTube, the machine itself isn't the whole product. The story of bringing it back from the dead is. That naturally raises another common question. Are these restorations even real? Experienced mechanics have pointed out just how unlikely some of these recoveries actually are, given years of rust, frozen engines, and rotted-out components. But one of the reasons Diesel Creek has built so much trust with its audience is that Matt doesn't edit around the failures. The snapped bolts, the busted tools, the days where absolutely nothing goes right all stay in the final cut. There's never been any credible, widely reported accusation of staged or faked restoration work against the channel, which in an industry where that kind of accusation follows a lot of creators, is notable on its own. And honestly, that lack of controversy extends to basically everything else too. No lawsuits that made headlines. No public feuds with other creators. No criminal allegations. No messy public divorce. No social media blow-ups. That's genuinely rare for a creator with this level of visibility, and it's created its own strange kind of mystery. People have gone looking for a hidden scandal simply because it feels like there should be one, and they keep coming up empty. If there's a real takeaway from all of this, after everything that's known and everything that still isn't, it's probably this. Diesel Creek has quietly outgrown its original premise. On the surface, it's still a channel about diesel engines and forgotten machinery. But underneath that, it's really about a mindset Matt has talked about again and again, the simple satisfaction of understanding how something works and refusing to give up on it once everyone else already has, whether that thing is a bulldozer, an old church, or simply a way of building an audience without giving up your privacy along the way. That's probably why so many viewers who couldn't tell an excavator from a backhoe still watch every upload. They're not really there for the machines. They're there for the persistence. One of the more interesting side effects of Diesel Creek's success is the kind of audience it's built. This isn't a channel that thrives on outrage, drama, or the kind of manufactured conflict that keeps a lot of creators relevant. Instead, it's attracted a community of people who genuinely care about mechanical problem solving. Retired mechanics, current heavy equipment operators, hobbyist tinkerers, and plenty of viewers who have never touched a wrench in their life but still find themselves hooked on the process. The comment sections under Diesel Creek videos tend to look different from what you'd find under most large channels. Instead of jokes and reaction GIFs, you'll often find viewers debating hydraulic systems, offering diagnostic suggestions, or sharing their own stories about restoring old machinery. Some viewers have said they started their own small restoration projects after watching Matt work through his. Others have talked about using his videos as informal education, picking up real troubleshooting knowledge simply from watching him narrate his way through a repair. That kind of engaged, knowledgeable audience is part of why the channel has been able to grow steadily without needing to lean on gimmicks or controversy to stay relevant. It also helps explain why Matt and Eva's privacy hasn't hurt the channel's growth. In a lot of corners of YouTube, audience loyalty is built through personal connection. Viewers feel like they know a creator's home life, their relationship, their day-to-day struggles. Diesel Creek built its loyalty differently, through consistency and craftsmanship instead of personal disclosure. Viewers trust Matt not because they know what his living room looks like, but because they've watched him work through hundreds of hours of real, unedited problem-solving without cutting corners. As for where things go from here, Matt hasn't given much indication that his approach is going to change.